are in listen-only mode.
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Jeremy Sauter, and I'm the Director of Membership at the French American Chamber of Commerce. It is a pleasure to have you today with us. Today we are doing a webinar on Online Networking 101. We decided to do this webinar because some of you attend events, of course, networking events of the FACC, but some of you also like to network online, and the two of them actually go hand in hand. And we wanted to bring you a specialist of online networking so you can also benefit fully from your participation in the FACC network. So today we have with us Sophie Lechner, who is a long-time member and the president of G2 Experience. G2 Experience is a specialist company of business education, but Sophie will tell you more in her presentation. And before we start, I would like to give some housekeeping rules for this webinar. So the presentation is going to take about 30 minutes in total. And during the presentation, you will be able to type in questions using the control panel, which is on the right side of your screen. And then at the end of the presentation, we will address the questions and provide the answers. So the webinar also will be recorded, and a copy of the slides also will be sent to the participants. So without further ado, I'm going to give now the screen to Sophie Lechner, CEO of G2 Experience. So Sophie.
Hello everyone. Yes. Hi.
Okay.
Let me get my slides up. Let me see, slideshow from the beginning. Hi everyone. I'm delighted to be able to share with you my passion for networking that I have been practicing online more and more. Jeremy, just to make sure that my slides are visible.
Yes, completely.
Okay. Good. Okay. So let me start. What you might have seen in the invitation is that this is going to be a summary of an online course that I had created. And so that's the name of the program, Opportunity Magnet Method, because I want all the connections that you're interested in to actually be attracted to you like a magnet. Just very briefly, my bio in pictures. I think it's just more fun to do this than a long text. I'm half French, half Pakistani. I went to an international school in France. I studied law at King's College and at the Panthéon-Sorbonne in France as well. And then I started working as a lawyer for several years and decided I wanted to do something different and came to New York to do my MBA at Columbia Business School. After that, I worked in finance and for a short while, but then very rapidly moved to global marketing. And I worked with teams around the world at Pfizer, then at Bayer, and a couple other places as well. After all this, I created my company. It's called Global Commerce Education. The main program is the G2 Experience for Global Growth. And this is just a little sampling of clients and organizations I've worked with. So that's just to give you a very broad stroke idea. Over the course of all those years, I have collected many connections around the world. And I have come to enjoy working with LinkedIn so much that I decided to do this course because I realized a lot of people are just very intimidated by LinkedIn or not aware of what they could do or are afraid that they might look like they're spammy salespeople. And there's just a lot of misunderstanding about LinkedIn and how to do networking online. So that brings us to today. What do I want to do today? I really want you to become comfortable in using LinkedIn in your daily life. and for any future objectives that you might have going forward. I want you to gain clarity on your specific networking objective, and really the point is to be focused, because LinkedIn is so, it can really be a rabbit hole. You can get yourself lost in there, and that's one of the issues I want to address. So to help with that, you need to have a networking objective, and we'll talk about how to make sure you build that. I'm going to show you a few strategies to grow your network, to deepen it, and really to make sure that it attracts people to you like a magnet. And at the end, you should be able to build a vibrant, a very compelling digital presence for yourself or your business. What today is not about, you might have received a lot of those messages from people, you know, sending you these long offers for whatever it is they want to sell. People say, you know, how to use LinkedIn. You can create automated emails, 200 people at a time or whatever. This is not what this is about. I am completely anti all those techniques and strategies. So, and also, there's a lot of content on LinkedIn, probably a lot more than anybody needs. And I'm not here to tell you to just add to the noise. So that's not what this is about. And it's certainly not about spamming and icky sales techniques. As I mentioned in my course, so we have a lot of, you know, classes, one-on-one and as a group, networking and workshopping, and I provide a lot of tools. And so what I wanted to do today is to share with you some of these. And so if you are, so I'll use this little, hopefully you can see my mouse, this little icon every time I mention one of those templates. And if you're interested in receiving them, then just email me and I'll send them to you. I'll remind you of this email address at the end. So that's my present to you, because I really want to help you, you know, learn these techniques. So what is networking? Well, networking is the development and maintenance of mutually valuable relationships. And every word here is very important. So development, what this means is that it is not a it's not a short-term investment, it's a long-term investment. It's going to take time. You can't just start networking and want results, you know, next month or even in 2-3 months from now. Maintenance, this refers to the fact it's really something that needs to be continued. It's not a one-time occurrence. It's really something you need to adopt as a new way of life and continue really, you know, for the rest of your life. Mutually, really this refers to, it really cannot be centered around you. It has to be, you know, not me-centered, basically. It has to be about others. And relationships, it's really, you need to be yourself. You can't just be a rigid, you know, purely a brand or a company. You need to be yourself as a person with your opinions and your personality, and really bring genuine curiosity to it. And a lot of what networking is, and that's true whether you're in person at an event or whether it's online, you need to always remember it's about listening to what people say and really offering to help them. I know there's a lot of corny messages about this, but it's really central in networking to authentically and genuinely want to share and learn from people and offer help. So we'll see this come back through the presentation. So as I said, you should start with objectives. Otherwise, you will get lost and it will just be a time eater, and you want to get somewhere with this, right? So think about your networking objectives as your destination. So perhaps you need to find clients, or you want to generate leads. You may be in a job search, or you're looking for a consulting gig, or maybe you're doing some research. So maybe you're building your business and you want to sort of really understand your customer persona. So you might be doing some research. So think of that as your destination. And then your activity on LinkedIn is really your journey to get to that destination, okay? And you really want to adopt that mindset that it's the journey. And what you want to do on a regular basis is really you want to learn. So you want to learn about a topic or an industry, a profession, depending on your objectives. You want to share your knowledge, share your experience. Some people think they have nothing to share. That is not true. You have a lot of experience and perspectives and opinions. You want to introduce people to each other. That's one of the beauties of LinkedIn. I've really enjoyed a lot over the years, is connecting people to each other and bringing them value that way. And you want to exchange opinions, you want to establish relationships, and you really want to have some mutually enriching exchanges. And as you're doing all of that, your objective, your destination becomes a byproduct of all those activities that are really enjoyable and very enriching, and you'll reach your objective if you keep your focus throughout all these activities. So in my course, I set up, what I call set up for success. So there's some things that are important before you start going on LinkedIn and using it as a tool. You need to have your profile complete, and that is something that you can find a lot of information about on the internet, so I'm not going to go through it now, but I do have a quick cheat sheet, so that's one of the things that I can send you if you email me. Adjust your settings. We'll see some examples today. You need to have certain settings to make sure that people can see you and see your activity, because that's the whole point of doing online networking. So I have a cheat sheet for that, and I will send you that if you ask for it. Now, create your networking plan. I talked about how you need to really be focused on what you're going after. And what I wanted to say about that is I'll talk to you about what your networking plan should be, and I'll send you the template as well. What I want you to think about is think of LinkedIn as your hub. It's your hub where you're going to have all the information from your networking activities. And there's in-person networking activities and online, and they really complement each other. So how it goes is if you go to a networking event, for example, you go to an FACC event and you meet some people, you're going to connect with them on LinkedIn, right? You're going to invite them or they'll invite you. You make sure that they are in your LinkedIn network as your hub. And then what you want to do is you want to nurture them. This is where the online part comes in. So you nurture them, you send them information, and we'll go over some of the things that you can do to nurture them. And then conversely, if you meet people online through some of the activities that we're going to look at, then you enter them in your LinkedIn hub. They will become contacts. We'll see the different steps to get there. And then you want to nurture them by possibly meeting them for a coffee if they're close by, or having a call with them. Some sort of interaction that's real life, that you can nurture them that way. So that's how I would like you to think about your network and your networking as this loop that feeds each other. So in order to really stay focused, because as I said, there's really a chance of getting down a rabbit hole. In order to remain focused, you need to set up what I call a networking plan. And what you need is basically, the target companies you're interested in, or organizations, or functions, or titles. And also, so sort of projected outward, what are you looking for? And then projected inward, think about what do you want to be known for? What's the image you want to project? So there's different situations. For example, if you're in a job search, just jot down what are the few skills and qualities you want to be seen, remembered for a couple of the achievements you want to be known for, and it's not like you're going to write these out and post them, but it's just for you to stay focused on what it is you want to project. For business development, you know, think of a couple of success stories you want to be known for, pain points of your clients' business needs that you can address. And then for research, you know, what are the questions that you want to have answered? And those are all things that will be in the back of your mind all the time when you're connecting with people, when you're receiving invitations, when you're, you know, preparing for a conversation. These are all the things to kind of keep you on your track. And you modify and improve this as you go. So I have a few templates, a couple of templates for each of these situations that I can send you. Now for the crux of what you actually want to do to do your networking. I think of it as two directions. You want to expand your base. That's your foundation. You want to have all those first degree connections because those are the ones that are going to be the foundation, in the sense that the more first connections you have, the more second and third connections you have, and the more people you have to look at and connect with. So first, start with your immediate circle. A lot of people are uncomfortable with LinkedIn because they say, well, I can't reach out to strangers. Yes, it's awkward to reach out to strangers, and I would say don't reach out to strangers. That's not what LinkedIn is all about. For some people it might be, but I would not recommend that. So just think about, okay, start with your friends and family and neighbors, okay? It might seem obvious, but a lot of you, I'm willing to bet, do not have a lot of that in your network. So just invite them. Also, colleagues, vendors, clients, people you've worked with in the past, people you work with now. And don't forget college, high school. I mean, you can even do elementary school. That could be a lot of fun. In my course, I have a 21-day challenge, and there's a few days where I say, just think of your best friend in elementary school and, you know, go connect with them. It's a lot of fun as well. But you never know where they land, right? Where they might have landed that could be fascinating for your objectives. Don't forget exchange programs. When you were in high school, you might have, or college, you might have gone abroad. Any sports team. I mean, you get the idea, right? Also, if you're in a different country than where you originate from, you know, what are some countries you've lived in, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I call your immediate circle. And you want to send an invite to connect. Golden rule in LinkedIn, always include a note, okay? And be careful on your phone. You have to do a certain manipulation to make sure you can include a note, otherwise it just shoots it off without a note. For this level, I would say keep it casual, offer to help, and if you find someone who happens to be exactly in your target of what you want to find out about, then ask them to have a call together, okay? At this point, if you're in a job search, I do not connect with HR, do not connect with recruiters, don't try and connect with clients. This is not what this part is about. What this stage is really only your immediate circle. So if you have an uncle who's in HR, go ahead and connect, but otherwise, no. And then, so this is to expand your base, and now to deepen your base. What you want to do, because even if you have only a few hundred, you could easily get to a few thousand connections, you want to stay focused. So what you need to do is sort your connections, and I would suggest you do this in Excel. There's a way to download your connections from LinkedIn into Excel, so you can do this. And you sort all your connections by industry, who's in your target companies, who's got the titles, the functions, etc. You know how to do that. And pick the top 10, identify the top 25 and top 50. And this you will use as you're going through all of your networking. Keep refreshing this. You have to have your target top of mind. So for your top 10 and 25, if there's somebody who's particularly relevant to what you're looking for, obviously ask them to have a chat. And for the others, just have a general outreach strategy, which is, you know, in your settings, just make sure you get notified of their birthdays and whatever, you know, promotions or new jobs, and just always send them a note. So all of those on the rest of your list, send them a note, and you know, just send a little note to your whole network every couple of months. So from then, what you want to do after that is increase your visibility. And this is not asking people to connect. This is following, and it's not the creepy following, you know, that you might stalking that you might be thinking about. It's really just following so that all this information comes to you, and we'll talk about what to do with it. So the immediate circle that we talked about before, everything's here. This is now the starting point from where you will increase your visibility. So starting from your current network, what are the companies that are of interest to you based on your networking plan? So you go to their page on LinkedIn and you follow them. There's a specific function, you may or may not know, that's follow. And so follow them. And every time you follow, whether it's a company or a person, all that information, everything they do and post will now come into your main feed. And that's going to be one of the sources from which you get information that you then want to, first of all, read about and assimilate and learn, but also potentially share if there's something that's worthwhile sharing. We'll come back to that. You want to identify thought leaders. You want to go and look at industry publications. You want to look at websites, things like, for example, the FACC member directory is also one of your sources. So there's a number of sources you can go to really identify who are the people in this field that post a lot, that write a lot, that people look up to, and you know, share their posts, etc. And you want to go to their LinkedIn profile and follow them. Again, all that stuff that they post will come into your feed. And then the third piece is identifying the relevant LinkedIn groups. That's a very, very powerful source of information and source of sharing of your visibility, and start liking and commenting. So I mentioned already the publications and websites, and you find these thought leaders, go back into LinkedIn and see what they follow, what groups they're, what they post, what groups they follow, etc. Another thing that's important is hashtags. That's a relatively recent development in LinkedIn. They've copied Facebook, I guess, and so there's a number of hashtags, hundreds of hashtags, and if you follow a hashtag, all the posts on that topic will come into your feed. So again, it's a way of narrowing down, well, not narrowing down because it's increasing, but it's a way of focusing more content in your feed. And you can also tag people with an @ and their name. And that's also another way of increasing your visibility. And to do all this research, you can do all this outside of LinkedIn, but also obviously there's a lot of possibilities within LinkedIn. So I thought I would just share with you a quick example. I'll go very quickly through it because I don't have a lot of time, but this is just something that I do because I enjoy using LinkedIn, so I teach how to use it. But my main activity is, among other things, cross-cultural training, and so I use that as an example here. So if I want to offer cross-cultural training to teams that are composed of US folks as well as people from headquarters, one of the keywords I want to use here is relocation. And if I just put relocation here, I'll get thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of entries. So I want to narrow it down, right? This is the standard search process. But what you can do is by connections, and then to get to a decent number that you can work with, a number of contacts that comes up of your research, you can narrow it down in a number of ways. So one of them that I put here is who's at Pfizer, because I worked at Pfizer for so many years. It's a way for me to more easily connect with people. So I put that to narrow it down, and then click apply. Here's what came out. So you see here that I have 37 results, and that's something I can work with. And I found this person, Senior Manager Global Relocation Services at Pfizer. So for me, in my current networking plan objective, this would be gold. And what I will do is go to that person's profile and see what they're all about. There's also this other person who's relevant. So I go to this guy's profile, and unfortunately, I see that he is not sharing his activity, his posts and his shares and all of that, because his settings are wrong. There's a lot, or maybe he doesn't want to share, but there's a lot of people, many among you, whose settings are such that your activity is not visible. And if you want to do networking on LinkedIn, that's one of the things that needs to be changed. So I scroll down on this person's profile, and I see that actually he's part of a number of groups that could really be interesting. So this is just a real life example to show you how you can really narrow down what you're looking for and then dig and find information that is going to be useful in your efforts of networking online. So that's a group that I have now joined, and that's how it works. Now, in terms of groups, since we're on that topic, so you can do a search for groups, and you can connect with a lot of different groups. You can join a lot of different groups. There's going to be an authorization process, but it's fairly quick. So you should search by industry, by function. It may be relevant to you, depending on your objectives, to search by location. And there are many, many groups, and so you need to do a little bit of sifting and choosing. So look at the group size. There's benefits to being in a huge group, but also you want to make sure that it's not so huge that you'll completely disappear. And more importantly, look at the frequency of activity and the quality of the conversations. There's some groups you're going to see everybody's self-promoting and there's no conversations. You don't want to be part of those. It's going to be useless. So of course, I can show you two examples of groups that I think would be interesting for you to join. One is the members of the French American Chamber of Commerce. If you're not already a member, I would highly recommend that you join. And this is one of the benefits of being part of the American Chamber of Commerce in New York, is that you can you be part of this group that has a lot of activity and really interesting people. So that's the link. When you receive the slides, you'll be able to click on it. And then, of course, there's another group that I think is very interesting too, which is the G2 Experience. And there's experts there in cross-cultural topics, global expansion, international affairs. So there's some really good, interesting conversations going on in there. So that's the link. And there's, of course, many, many more you can join. What you want to do, we were talking about nurturing. So sharing an article, I use this Pocket.com just as a very simple way of gathering all the information that I think will be of interest potentially to some of the people in my network. And so every time you're on a, there's a little applet, it's called, it's a little icon on your screen. Every time you see something interesting, you just click on that and it all comes here. And then from here, see artificial intelligence in collaborating across cultures is something that I think might be interesting. So when I have a little bit of time on my hands, just 5-10 minutes here and there, I can just go here and see this article, post it with a commentary. Short commentary is enough. You don't need to be a writer of long blog posts to be able to post things of interest in LinkedIn. You just need to have an opinion of your own on why this article might be of interest. So you're really serving your community. Sharing your articles, your activities, that's just the example that I came up with. Well, the point is here, use these hashtags, as I mentioned before. So webinar skills, lead generation, job search, networking, obviously those are the words. And then when Jeremy shared this in the French American Chamber of Commerce company page, he tagged me. So by writing at Sophie Lechner, my name comes up. So this shows up in my feed. So if you're thanking somebody for having posted something, or if referring to an article, if you're posting an article, you might want to tag the author, for example. And so with all this activity, what you do is you start showing up regularly. So you show up in your groups, you start to click like and start getting engaged in conversations with people on some interesting stories. You add short comments, you ask questions, you really start a conversation, and eventually those conversations would lead you to have a relationship with these people, and then you can connect with them. In your updates as well, you're going to share events that you go to, projects you're working on, observations, books you've read, all kinds of things you could share. So you see, you don't need to be an expert. You can do all these things just on a regular basis, be present and build relationships. I would say have an opinion. You don't need to be super controversial, but stand for something within reason, so that you can really feed some interesting conversations. And as I said, remember, use the hashtags and tag and thank the person who shared whatever article you're sharing in the first place. So all this will lead you to have a larger and larger network of connections. And once you've had these conversations with someone in the groups or in your feed, after a few exchanges, you can suggest a call or coffee or meeting, and sometimes you can get a little bit frozen at that point and feel, intimidated by asking. So I've provided a few templates to just get the conversation started. It's very simple, but helps get unstuck. And when you have these conversations, really get into a research mindset. Remember the journey versus the objective. You really want to get yourself in the mindset that you're exploring a topic, you're looking to learn about it. Never go for a sale or looking for a job at this stage. You're just gathering information. You want to find out something. And you really want to have people start talking. So just pick examples of something you have in common, for example. There's always the situation if people don't answer, and that's up to you how comfortable you are. My own is, after a week, send another message. I just want to check, see if you received my message, then I'll follow up another time, maybe use another method. That's really very much up to you. I've said this before, just open-ended questions. Think of how you would think back to your networking plan and how you would fine-tune it, find information that will feed that plan and help you. And always in conversations, always leave the conversation with 2 to 3 people that they can recommend, that person can recommend for you to talk to. So that's another way of, multiplying your outreach. And always look for ways to help and connect them. Don't make it about what you want or need. Follow-up is very important. Just stay in touch regularly. As soon as when you've connected with someone, when you've met with someone, obviously, follow up. That is just so important. So just to recap real quick, I would say the way to make this work is really to incorporate it in your daily routine. So on a daily basis, just check your invites and messages. This is something you can do, you know, you spend 15 minutes twice a day or whatever works for you, but it doesn't need to be hours and hours. So check your invites and your messages, respond, and remember to build relationships. Then the second thing is check your notifications. So if there's promotions, new jobs, birthdays, just send a quick little note. That takes a second. Then look at the activity on your posts. So whoever's liked or commented, go to their profile, see if it's someone that you think makes sense to follow based on the criteria you've established in your networking plan. And of course, respond to comments and engage in conversation and share, you know, from one group to another, for example. Then the other thing to do is to check who's viewed your profile. That's on the left on your profile. You can see who's viewed you. And same process, you know, take a look at who they are and decide whether it's someone you want to follow or someone you want to connect with if you know them or feel comfortable doing that, or you want to engage in conversation with them via your group or your feed or wherever they can be found. And then the other thing you should do on a regular basis is check your feed. And obviously there you will see a lot of stories that you think of something that you could say. Now you may not have time, maybe you're on the bus, you're just, you know, you can't think of something to say that's, you know, really complete thought. So you save it to your Pocket account or whatever else you want to use. I find that just very easy. Just in 2 clicks, or in 1 click even, it's there. And later on, at some point, you know, after dinner, I put my feet up, I look at my Pocket account, and I shoot 2 or 3 things that I want to share to a group or to my feed. And then if you're at an event, obviously, you know, just post a little something with a visual and or an observation, you know, something just occurred to me, how about this or that? And that's depending on your comfort level. So just a word about this online course that I offer, as I said, again, as a way of just sharing all this. It's a 4-week intensive, I call it step-by-step, hands-on sprint. So it's 4 weeks intensive where you'll be doing more than you would do on your daily basis, but it gets you in that frame of mind, it gets you going. There's short videos to explain everything, homework, a weekly live group call. So there's 4 total hours of group call where people support each other. It's a lot of interesting input and fun. And I've done a 21-day challenge. So that's to really get you in the habit of doing this every day. So every day there's a little task. And then there's a platform to have support, you know, support each other for all the people in the group. I take about 15 people. And for all of you on the call today, I'm happy to give you a 20% discount. So that's in a nutshell what I wanted to say to you about LinkedIn. Here's all my, all the ways you can reach me. And as I said, if you are interested in the templates, you can have them if you email me here. I'll be very happy to send them to you. And if you're interested in the course, here's the link to where you can learn more about it and sign up if you're interested. So I'm going to give it back to Jeremy at this point. He has some very cool resources to share with you. And of course, we'll take questions afterwards.
So great, thank you. Great, thank you, Sophie, for this very insightful presentation. I'm sure it's getting a lot of people thinking about online networking. And so I'm going to complete this presentation by a few slides regarding the FACC member directory, which a number of you today are members of the chamber, some are not. So I want you to understand how the member directory of the chamber can be used. So we're going to start with a few tips regarding the member directory. So the member directory can be used to find members of interest. It can be used also to craft an impactful message. So next slide. So first of all, how do you find members of interest? Obviously, the first step is to log into your member dashboard, and every member here should have created a login. If not, you can do so from the FACC website, FACC-NY.org/user, or just click on the member login. And then you will either create your login or just already log in if you have done so. And then you will come to this page that you can see on the screen, which is the research page. So one function here that you can see, which is I think a very useful, very interesting feature, is the ability to filter to see only the new members of the chamber. So you see this see all new members line in red. That's something you can click on in order to filter to only see the new members of the last 90 days. And reaching to new members can be an interesting way for you to welcome them into the network. And as Sophie was saying, online networking is very often about sharing, about being welcoming. You can even offer to onboard, these new members to the network, to share your connections with them. So that's a very interesting approach. But you don't have to use that filter all the time. In any way, after you have either clicked on see all new members or not clicked, you will be able to do your research, and you can see on that screen that there are several filters that you should look at. The first filter is the chapter, and obviously we are the New York network, so 90% of you will look at the New York network, but there are other cities that are sharing their directory with us, such as Dallas, the Gulf Coast, Michigan, or Washington, D.C. Second, there is the category search, which is also extremely important because that's how you can in a fast way find the members that you want. And when you look at a category, you should consider what is the primary category of the business, and then what is the secondary category of the business. So for example, a beauty products development expert, maybe like a consultant, basically maybe found under consulting or under beauty products. So that's a good way of searching. And then the keyword search, which you can see here, is also very important, and it's a powerful tool because our members are described, their business activity is described in 500 characters or less. In the directory, and that's how you're going to find, for example, I'm looking for a mergers and acquisitions specialist. I'm looking for a conversion rate optimization specialist, or I'm looking for employment law, or a distributor, or a asset management, etc. And then in the keyword, you can also search by the function. So you could type in chief financial officer, marketing, sales, etc. So then you can also, there is another way that you can contact members, which is when you register for an FACC event, you can then go to your member dashboard and you can scroll down to the Your Events section. And in that section, you're going to see that next to the event that you registered for, there is a button that says Member Participants List. So that is your opportunity to contact members ahead of the event and offer a conversation and offer maybe to meet with them during the events. That's a pretty powerful tool because an event of the FACC is like a closed environment where you're going to have an excellent chance of talking to the people who are attending. Then, once you have identified the member that you want to reach, it's important to craft an impactful message. So, as Sophie was explaining very well, it's very important to research the business, explain why it is of specific interest to you. Do something very personalized. Point towards areas of synergies that may exist between their and your activities. So basically, it can be a win-win benefits. Any side can benefit from the conversation. Other tips is offering to help. So, for example, share your experience of the US market. Someone who is managing a store in a beauty store, for example, and he's a new member, you may want to share your experience of that market. Or, as Sophie was explaining as well, brainstorming which of your connections would be of interest to them. I think this giving approach before you ask is always a successful approach. And then you click on contact this member. So on the directory next to each member name, you have a contact this member link. And you use the member-to-member introduction message tool, which you can see here on the screen. And you'll see, you'll select from the scroll down menu what topic you like to talk about. So it could be experience sharing, it could be accounting, it could be recruitment, it could any type of need. And then what's most important is the message that you will type here. And it's important to know that this, what you send here is going to go straight to the member's email inbox. So you don't have to type that. And the member receiving that will automatically know which member is sending, which company, and will have your email address so they can reply to you. And you will receive a duplicate of the message you sent in your inbox. So we're going to now start the questions and answers. So Sophie you back with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, or I'm sure actually you never left. Yes. We had some interesting questions today regarding this presentation. So I'm going to go through some of them. So the first question that I see is, isn't it more important to post on your feed rather than in a group?
Both have their own benefits, and actually it's not mutually exclusive. So what I like to do is post something in my feed and then share it to maybe one or two groups that are that for who it could be of particular interest. So, you know, with your feed, all your connections see it. With the group, you have people that have a more specific interest in that topic. So your reach is more focused. You can do both.
Okay. Question about the so it says you talk about never asking for a job. However, that is the reason why most students and young professionals use LinkedIn while seeking an internship, a VIE, a first-time full position, etc. Do you not recommend it because you don't want to be in a position of asking something? It kind of is the same thing when you say no HR, no recruiter, except if you are in your immediate circle, if they are in your immediate circle. If you can reply now, please reach out separately.
Yeah. Sure. What I'm getting at with that is that if you approach someone and say, hey, you know, I just graduated so-and-so and I'm looking for an internship, your chances of having somebody respond to you are extremely low. You got to be realistic. You know, people get questions like that all the time. So what I suggest doing is really flipping the whole conversation around and sharing information that could be of interest to people. And through all the tactics and strategies that I share here is really end up having the people that you're interested in actually see you, find you, and reach out to you. So that's the whole philosophy of this. And of course, there's, you know, if you're looking for a job, you should be onto the job boards and you should be, you know, applying for positions. But what I mean by no HR is you don't want to, for example, apply for a position, see the name of the HR person, and then go and look them up and find them and invite them to connect. That is a strategy that is bound for failure. They're going to get really mad about people asking them to connect. So what you want to do is at the later stage when you're starting to expand your visibility, you might follow the company where you've applied for a job, but not the HR person. They're going to feel stalked. So you follow the company and you make interesting comments in groups where that recruiter might be, for example, and that's how you start to appear on people's radar.
Great, thank you, Sophie. I think we have only 1 or 2 minutes left. So I'm going to ask, there is another question here that I see. How do you find that a group is a quality group in terms of conversations if you're not already a member?
Yes, that's a very good point. It's a bit circular in the beginning. So you ask to join. There's some groups you can join just like that, but most of them you have to ask. So you ask, you join, and then you look around, and if you don't like it, you leave. It's as simple as that.
Okay, that sounds good. A question is, once you have identified 2 or 3 people of interest, like you were giving the example of the search we did, I think with Michael Washburn, I think. What is the best approach? That once you have identified this person, do you ask a connection, someone who you have a connection in common to introduce you, or should you reach out directly to this person?
At this point, it depends a little bit what your objective is. If you're able, so the first thing to do if you don't know them personally would be to follow them. In that same realm, you know, look at what groups they belong to and join the groups. If you're comfortable asking them to connect and you feel that you have a question to ask them that they could legitimately be willing to engage with you on, for example, I'm deciding on a career change, or you know, you want to ask for some advice, you could reach out to them. But I really view this as more of a long-term approach, and I'm more comfortable. I think it's better to do a more soft approach and follow them and just appear on their radar and post your question in a group. And then after a while, when you might have engaged with them a little bit, then approach them.
Okay, sounds good. So we're coming to the end of our time here. So I want to thank you all for your participation. Thank you, Sophie Lechner, for this very engaging presentation, which got us all thinking about how to improve our online networking. And we have the email addresses here of Sophie, my email address as well, if you are interested in becoming a member of the FACC network, or questions if you are already a member, questions about networking. And these presentation slides will be sent to everyone. So no worry. And again, I want to thank you everyone for participating. Thank you, Sophie, and we hope to see you soon at an FACC event. We have the Summer Social on August 14. See our website if you want to participate. And also an IoT technology fair on September 12th. So thank you again, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.